This is KTN Prime with Linda Ogutu and Ben Katili.
Here in time for KTN Prime, we have a comprehensive bulletin for you. It is the 12th day of August. Our sign language interpreter at the bottom end of your screen is Meresha Owiti.
Indeed, we begin tonight with what is undoubtedly some very bad news for a group of young Kenyans.
The National Police Service Commission has declared null and void police recruitment in 36 centers spanning 21 counties.
After an audit triggered by massive complaints and claims of corruption, the Commission says the exercise in those centers could not stand the integrity test. Here are the details.
The dreams of over 1,200 young men and women hoping to join the National Police Service may just have died following this announcement by the chairman of the National Police Service Commission.
That recruitment in the 36 centers, which we have announced today, has been annulled, and a new date will be set by the Commission and communicated to the public when fresh recruitment will take place.
Tana River, Mandera, Isiolo, Meru, Embu, Nyandarua, Nyeri, Murang'a, West Pokot, Elgeyo Marakwet, Nandi, Baringo, Laikipia, Nakuru, Narok, Kajiado, Kericho, Bomet, Kakamega, Bungoma, and Busia are the 21 counties that are home to the centers mentioned. Murang'a recorded the highest number of centers where irregularities are claimed to have occurred. The annulment of the exercise in those centers comes just days after the Independent Policing Oversight Authority sought orders from the High Court to have the whole exercise annulled following complaints of corruption in the exercise. This latest decision was reached following an audit that was carried out by a joint committee comprising the National Police Service Commission, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, and the Ministry for Interior. The date for a repeat of the exercise in the mentioned centers will be announced later. Coincidentally, the announcement came just after the Cabinet Secretary for Interior said retirees from the police service will now be absorbed into community policing in a bid to step up security in the country.
Gone are the days when an officer retires and almost become unwanted persons in the service. We are saying these are men and women who have served with distinction and great honor, and we want to appreciate the role they play during their time and also tap into the experience and knowledge they possess.
This is just the first in a wider plan to keep retiring police officers in the nation's service, albeit at a much reduced remuneration. Mashirima Kapombe, KTN.
36 centers spanning 21 counties. That story by Mashirima Kapombe forms the basis of our big question tonight, and we're asking you, do you support the nullification of police recruitment for the 1,200 new recruits?
Indeed, that matter is in court, but you can comment on it. Send us your yes or no response to the number 22155 and join that conversation on Twitter at Ben_Kitili, at Linda Ogutu, and at KTN Kenya. We shall be sampling those views during this live newscast.
Great, let's now take you to the coast. Nurses in Mombasa County are set to down their tools starting next week unless the county government addresses their grievances. They have cited salary arrears and inadequate facilities as reasons for their discontent. Stakeholders have advised both parties to seek a resolution to the row that would paralyze services in public hospitals.
Patients at the Coast General Provincial Hospital would wait all morning before realizing that no nurses would arrive to tend to them. The nurses were on a go-slow, protesting the delay of their salaries and the lack of adequate equipment and medication. A section camped outside their hospital, registering their grievances.
The expiry of 7 days, we shall walk out of our facilities and be on strike until the government addresses this issue adequately.
It is reported that the hospital, which serves the coastal region, has not received its allotment of drugs for the last few months. This despite the disbursement of over 800 million shillings to cater for healthcare services in various counties. The situation now driving the cost of healthcare further beyond the reach of many.
You cannot miss all the essential equipment and supplies that will enable you to facilitate in the delivery of services.
The hospital needs about 600 nurses to run efficiently, but currently has only 314.
Mpaka saizi sijaona hata daktari wala nani kuja kunishughulikia.
We are worried. I think we need to get a solution quickly within those 7 days to avert to jump into the crisis level.
It's better for a patient to die at home than be brought to an hospital to come and die there.
Efforts to get a comment from the county government yielded no fruit. The nurses have given the Mombasa County government until next week to address their grievances, failure to which they shell down their tools. Wilkis Tanyabwa, KTN.
Let's move to nearby Lamu County, where Attorney General Professor Githu Muigai says the allocation of 500,000 acres of Lamu land to 22 private companies was unconstitutional and the titles could not be considered legal. The Attorney General told the Senate's Legal Affairs Committee that the transactions happened at a time the Constitution had frozen alienation of public land until the establishment of the National Land Commission. KTN's Patrick Amimo reports.
Members of the Senate's Legal Affairs and Human Rights Committee had a full tray of legislative concerns they wanted the government's legal advisor, Professor Githu Muigai, to clarify. Members questioned President Uhuru Kenyatta's recent orders to Lands Cabinet Secretary to revoke titles to the 500,000 acres in Lamu County, which the Jubilee administration says were irregular. Githu says the 2010 Constitution froze alienation of public land until formation of the National Lands Commission.
My reading of the National Land Commission Act dictates that there must be a procedure before titles are revoked. Have you given an opinion on this? Because my own view is that the President has violated the law by issuing an order of revocation, unless, of course, there is a complaint in writing under Article 135.
There can be no doubt that I personally was consulted on the legality of the procedures that alienated public land in Lamu. And my mind was clear then, as it is now, that those procedures were unconstitutional and illegal.
The senators are of the view that the courts might be encouraging impunity, especially after they allowed Embu Governor Martin Wambora to appeal the Senate's unanimous decision to impeach him.
If you follow constitutional provisions strictly, you would have believed that once the Senate had, for the second time, impeached the governor, the process would have ended there.
The court, in its wisdom, granted a stay of the orders pending the determination of the case.
This issue of Embu really bothers me a bit. It's like encouraging impunity and so on.
The rule of law requires that where the Constitution donates powers to a body to make a determination, once that body has made a determination, all other organs should exercise the greatest self-restraint.
The Senate has once again moved to assert its authority by insisting that bills originating from government must be discussed by both houses before getting sent from the president. Otherwise, they risk being declared unconstitutional. Senators also expressed concern that over 20 bills have been referred to the National Assembly for debate, with the Senate completely excluded.
To me, I think these laws that have come to effect pursuant to those bills are irregular, and I think any Kenyan can challenge that in court. These were not bills that specifically, in the language of the constitutions, concerned county government as such.
You have no power to determine whether a bill concerns county. It is a preserve of Speaker Ethuro and the Speaker of National Assembly.
If you read carefully the judgment of the Supreme Court on what touches on the county, read it carefully. If you read carefully, then I cannot see any bill that can be said not touching on the county.
Consensus has now emerged that all bills now published by the government will be sent to both houses.
That it has become very clear to this committee that the current Attorney General and the former Attorney General are neither morticians or surgeons.
Patrick Amimo, KTN.
Attorney General Githu Muigai there, leaving the Senate more confused. Let's try and clear this confusion. In studio, I'm joined by Odenda Lumumba, the National Coordinator, Kenya Land Alliance. Thank you so much for joining us on KTN Prime. What are your thoughts on what the Attorney General had to say today?
I think the Attorney General is affirming one thing that is very clear. The Constitution of Kenya came into effect on 27th of August 2010. Any actions in matters of allocating land cannot have been performed, especially on public land, without involving the National Land Commission. That is in no doubt. However, the manner in which we are trying to address the wrong that happened is equally wrong, to the extent that two wrongs cannot make a right. And therefore, one would basically be left wondering, if it was unconstitutional at the point of allocating land, how constitutional is it that the person heading the process of doing this is not the person mandated by the Constitution? So the Attorney General must be consistent to Kenyans and basically state that it wasn't right at the time of allocating land. It isn't equally right that the commission is in place and yet this matter is going on as if the commission never existed.
Does not exist.
Yeah.
All right, let's look at the quarrel in this. The president revoked the title deeds. Of course, there is an investigation going on. But where really is this quarrel? Did we send land to undeserving people? Was it sent at a throwaway price? What is the quarrel over the land in Lamu?
I tended to think that the president was talking about the principle of concentration of a land in the hands of a few people at the expense of the majority of Kenyans. Yet, the constitutional principle is equitable, sustainable use of land by all Kenyans. So, are we saying that it is wrong today to have 22 companies have land if our principle about constitutional land in the hands of few still remains? If tomorrow we get another 10 or less number getting this land, will it make any right? In any case, are we saying equitably that from today henceforth, we are now going to follow the principle of equitable distribution of land, in which case Kenyans will wait to see how that is done? Because as long as we don't see the criteria upon which any effort to allocate land is being administered, it raises questions. For instance, as we talk right now, we are told surveyors are all over Lamu trying to survey land. Are they surveying public land to allocate, or are they surveying land which is community land for purpose of adjudication?
So the objective of the survey is not clear.
Yeah, it's not very clear. Because if it was allocation, we need to know the criteria. Who are these needy persons in whose interest the land is being allocated? Remember that even when they talk about going to Tana River to do the same exercise, they are really contravening the Constitution to the extent that as long as we don't have a community land law, there's a moratorium in dealing in community land. So if you go to Tana River in a purely community land area and you purport to be surveying that land to dish out, whom are you doing? How are you going to do that? Because community land registration and protection, according to the Constitution, can only be undertaken through the community land law, which is not in existence.
Okay, so you've talked on the legality and the illegality of the entire process. According to the Attorney General, the President did not revoke the titles in Lamu because they were illegal in the first place. These 22 individual stroke companies had title deeds. Are we in any way trying to say that title deed that was given to these individuals was illegal? Can a state give illegal title deeds to its people?
I think the question could be basically we cannot purport to say that the title they were given were basically illegal.
The Attorney General says they're not recognizable.
I think once the due process from the very beginning is not proper, those titles don't hold. Because remember that the title is an end of process. So the procedure, the process that gives title must be as provided in the law and the procedures as laid down. What we are dealing with in this particular case, we are really setting a case of insecure land tenure in Kenya, which basically scares everybody. How best can you hold land that you are guaranteed by the state, which offers the title? The state does not give a title as a matter of course, but it gives a title as a finality to confirm that the due process has been followed. But in this particular circumstance, these titles were not. And if we are saying they are not, we basically say that the title is not worth the value by which it's laden. And that's one of the problems we are having when we are being told that the government is in a process of issuing out titles in a mega way, in millions. And we are asking, what's the due process of doing this? To whom are they going to give these titles? I think all these questions, besides the Attorney General, is he advising the Cabinet Secretary in charge of lands to be doing this matter? Is he setting another illegality and unconstitutionality, which we are going tomorrow to be dealing with, that all the matter were illegal, they were unconstitutional? I think the Attorney General should shape up in terms of advising the government of the day.
Great. So one reason given in all this is that the 500-acre piece of land in Lamu was given without the approval of the National Land Commission. Of course, this was formed under the new constitution. And according to the Attorney General, he says the transactions happened at a time the constitution had frozen alienation of public land until establishment of the National Land Commission. But we cannot exist in a vacuum. Land still needed to be transacted then. What was happening in between?
I think we basically, the land, not all land in Kenya is public land. There's land to the extent of private land. It could still continue to be transacted into. But as far as public land was concerned, the management administration of that land lies with the National Land Commission. And as long as it wasn't in place, no transactions could have taken place.
So in essence, what you're trying to say is that any public land that was transacted during this period would now be revoked.
It is suspect, and that's the reason why there's a process of checking its propriety, its legality, and that is a review that is provided by the Constitution in all grants and disposition of public land.
Lumumba, you realize this is going to go all through the entire country now?
I think it is going to go through the entire country. It's a painful exercise, but it is worth it. This is a surgical thing. You are told you have a cancer, and there's no two way to it. It's going to be through a surgical operation. It will go through a chemotherapy. It might not be the most pleasant scenario to go through, but that is what the cancer about land is all about. This is a cancerous situation we are dealing with, and there cannot be quick fixes about it.
Okay. Yeah. Odenda Lumumba, National Coordinator, Kenya Land Alliance, thank you so much for sharing your opinion on the Lamu land issue. Thank you. Now, the Transport Cabinet Secretary, Michael Kamau, maintains that the recently introduced regulations by the National Transport and Safety Authority are only to enhance road safety and not to victimize any particular class of road users. As KTN's Ian Wafula reports, pedestrians and motorbike operators found the regulations a little bit too harsh.
Number of road fatalities as of 31st July 2014 was 1,616. This signifies a drop of 13% compared with similar period last year.
Even with the general decrease in the number of road fatalities, the Ministry of Transport says pedestrians make up 46% of the fatalities, a figure they say is too high. Ignoring traffic lights, crossing roads at any point, and avoiding footbridges where necessary, peculiar habits that prompted the National Transport and Safety Authority to propose new regulations. If found guilty of jaywalking, the authority announced that one is liable to a penalty of 500 shillings or charges for attempted suicide. Pedestrians aside, the regulations ban boda operators from carrying more than one person and operating within the central business district of any town or city.
Kubeba mtu moja haiwezi lipa. Kwa mfano ukienda about 10 kilometers na 50 shillings, if you compare the cost, you find it is not going to pay at the end of the day.
Kutufinya kikazi yetu ni ngumu. Uwezi niambia tu nitabeba mtu mmoja na wamekuja wawili na pesa ndio tulikuja kutafuta kwa hii kazi.
I wish to emphasize that the sole purpose of these regulations is to enhance road safety and not to victimize any particular class of road users.
The regulations further spell out the necessity for motorbike gears, with those breaking the rules facing a jail term of not more than 6 months or a fine not exceeding 20,000 shillings. We're just 12 days into the month of August, a month the Ministry of Transport says has recorded the highest number of road fatalities over the past few years. Nonetheless, the ministry says that once these proposed regulations take effect, road fatalities will reduce immensely. Ian Wafula, KTN, Nairobi.
So still on traffic matters, news just in indicate that a court in Nairobi has ruled it is illegal for police to impose towing charges against traffic offenders. Principal Magistrate BM Ntsa has said there is no law in the country allowing the police to order suspected offenders to pay the charges to private entities. The magistrate decided that the police were creating businesses for private people who charge up to 8,000 shillings for every car towed. The ruling was made in a case where a lawyer had been taken to court on allegations of driving while drunk.
Now, with the National Police Service Commission planning to take in tens of thousands of new police recruits, the security sector is still struggling to provide housing for officers across the Republic. But in Nairobi's Ruai estate, a very unique kind of police housing is coming up. Ever heard of bulletproof houses? Well, take a look at the following story.
At the Ruai Police Post, men are busy at work constructing new houses for the police service. Once they're done, such mabati structures will be a thing of the past for policemen and women here. But these houses are not just any ordinary ones. A new technology is in place to ensure these residential areas are bulletproof.
Material inayotumika hapa inaitwa panels. Kuna sponge katikati kama hii ya kupack TV na radio, lakini on the sides kuna wire mesh ambayo imewekwa, which is special steel. Inaitwa stencil steel, which is stronger 3 times than our normal wire mesh.
Cement mixing is incorporated with a white panel that is designed to withstand bullet penetration. In addition, a reinforced wire mesh is aligned to the walls of the housing unit before final plastering is done.
Ya foundation kawaida tunatumia double panel, and it's recommended kuanzia ghorofa 4 kuendelea juu ndio unakuwa na hii double panel. Hii haiweki ikiwa yote mzima. The height of the foundation will depend on the level of the ground.
The technology known as the expanded panel system of construction has been borrowed from Italy and will see 44 units built in the first phase of construction. Contractors say these new housing units will neither have water leaks nor cracks.
If you adopt an environmentally friendly construction system and eco-friendly, you will be able to also do away with timber, do away with all natural stones, and be able to build solely using this technology.
They add that the new housing units are faster to construct and will see police officers live in dignified houses. Many may wonder why build bulletproof homes for police officers in the first place. The president is expected to officially launch the new housing units in a move meant to change the face of police housing. Timothy Otieno, KTN.
Now, 200 women fishmongers in Osieko Beach along the shores of Lake Victoria have decided to take on a new kind of work to put food on the table.
The women have broken with tradition and joined the menfolk in sand harvesting. KTN's Masikandi has that inspiring story.
The men would go fishing. The women would then sell the fish as a source of livelihood. That used to be a typical day on the shores of Lake Victoria. But change, as they say, is inevitable. And just as fisher women have joined the ranks of those who have made fishing their source of livelihood, even more women have crossed the line and joined the energy-sapping and back-breaking work of sand harvesting. Men bring in the sand, the women offload it from the boats. This women now trend on new grounds.
There was a scarcity of fish in the lake. That is the major reason why we have decided to do this kind of work at this particular moment.
Majority of the women are widows, the sole breadwinners in the family. The once so busy Osieko Beach in Siaya County with fishmongers is now the grounds where thousands of tons of sand is harvested.
Nikitoka hapa natoka na pesa, nikienda kwa nyumba sinapata chakula na tunakula na familia yangu, pia mzee pia anakula.
The wet, heavy sand is such a burden, but not greater than the burden of providing for their families. Bare feet, they step into the cold water in the chilly morning weather. They have to, before the hot sun begins burning down on their bodies.
Kila siku nikifanya kazi ya mchanga naweza kupata 300 ama 500 ikiendelea. Sasa inalingana tu na nguvu yako.
Daily earning often depends on the number of trips the boats will make to the shores, and the quantity of sand will also depend on the industry of the man who ferries them from the deep ends of the lake. But despite the challenges, they soldier on.
If you have some capital, then we quit from this work, then go to the other businesses.
They sell the sand to buyers who come in lorries from Siaya, Kisumu and other neighboring areas with the hope that soon this will not be their only source of livelihood. They want to save just enough to take them to new grounds of business. Masi Kandie, KTN Prime.
So my co-anchor Ben Kitili says, wachana na wasichana wa Nairobi, hawa ndio wanajua kuhustle. Okay, let me wait and see how that plays out. In an unusual twist of events, a man, his wife and their children caught 6 dangerous pythons that had been hiding in a water spring in Gazi village, Voi town. The man, a former Kenya Wildlife Service ranger, drew on his experience to rid a local well of the snakes that have been terrorizing villagers. Would like to warn you that some of the pictures in this story are disturbing.
After weeks circling the well, Mutiso, a former Kenya Wildlife Service ranger, his wife, and an officer from the Kenya Wildlife Service made their move. Their mission, to catch the 6 pythons that were preventing locals from fetching water. Their only equipment, a 30-foot-long rope. And as villagers watched, Mutiso would climb down the well and back up, a giant snake in hand, repeating the move until all 6 pythons were out of the well. Each snake measuring in at between 17 and 25 feet long. The crowd would surge in to catch a glimpse, some even seeking to touch the snakes. The 3 snake hunters began to make preparations 2 weeks ago. They monitored the snakes and learned just how many there were. They would caution villagers against loitering in the area.
Nafanya kazi na Mbula Conservancy, nimeachana na KWS, lakini si acha kuchunga wanyama, ndio sababu niliitwa, sababu juzi niko naye, na si hapa peke yake, mahali popote Kenya nikiitwa na andamana timu yangu hii unaiona hapa. Tunaenda tunashika na tunapeleka mahali zinastahili.
Pythons are known to monitor footsteps in order to assess how big and strong the animal approaching is. They are also known to wrap themselves around their prey, breaking their bones before swallowing them whole. Residents of Mbololo, Mlilo, Gazi and Kishushe villages have been victims of snake attack.
Ni wengi hasa sehemu hizo za mlima huko, pali iko maji, water catchment, hawa nyoka huwa wanapatikana. Na tunajaribu kuambia wakiona nyoka yoyote aina hiyo, watuite, sisi tuko tayari kuwasaidia.
The snakes were carried to the park where they were released. Bolkistanyabwa, KTN.
Let's go all the way to the county of Bungoma now, where a special rite of passage is underway for young men of the Bukusu community. Now, as KTN's Francis Ontomwa reports, it is a ceremony that has attracted people from all corners of Western Kenya and a practice which the community is very proud of. Take a look.
Rhythmical beating of the Isukuti. This is Sangalo village in Kandoi. Climate setting for one of Bukusu community's most important occasions, the circumcision ceremony. It is August and the call is here again. Every 2 years, the Bukusu community wait for this with bated breath. And this is where it all begins. A special ceremony to sharpen the knives. Knives that will cut these young men out of the childhood into adulthood.
Kwanza tutampaka kinyesi cha
yule ng'ombe ambaye amechinjwa, alafu anasabwa kofi ili kumpatia ile mori ya kuwa mjasiri.
This teenager is all set for the ritual, the tests varying in magnitude, but one must withstand them all. On his shoulder is a special meat. The whole village gets into a carnival mood as the process kicks off, the event attracting people from far and wide. The community members jog and sing along as they encourage the initiates right from the river. Here, the candidate must exhibit high-level courage, and there is no room to change one's mind. From the river, a special clay is fetched and mounted on the head.
Itaanza kule nyuma kwenye mama, ije kwa mtoto akizaliwa, ije sasa ameenda ujombani, alafu aje apashwe hiyo tahara yake.
And after the process, the initiates for the first time are allowed to talk to the world. And the experience could just be as easy.
Mimi sikusikiako uchungu. Mimi niliona tu vizuri, hata sikujua kama wamekata.
Angalia wakati walivusha frame ndio maana nimetairisha.
Those who support the practice say it is here to stay, and those who pass through it stand the test of life.
Ile advice, ile counsel huwa tunapeana vijana wetu ni kama unaweza kulinganisha na 10 commandments. Kama mtu anaweza kusihifadhi, basi atakuwa amepatiwa counsel ya maisha yake.
They walk away feeling like they have just gone through a baptism of some sort, having crossed bridge that separates men from the boys. And for the next few days, this will continue to be the mood here in Bukusu land. Francis Ontomwa, KTN Prime, Bungoma.
Good evening, my name is Bonitunya. This is business. Now, you have probably heard that Kenyans, particularly those of the low-income segment, do not save and instead spend all their income on consumption. But a new study has found that not only do the low-income Kenyans save, they also diversify their resources and sources of income to maximize returns and minimize losses. All this is part of a strategy to cope and grow in the face of daunting odds. Adle Changole has this report.
The popular adage has been that Kenyans in the lower income bracket spend all their income on food and amenities, leaving nothing for a rainy day. But findings from the Financial Diaries reports show that the truth is anything but that. According to the study, which profiled 300 low-income families over an 18-month period, low-income Kenyans with an average salary of 2,167 shillings a month and a combined household income of 7,000 shillings save up to 39 days of income, much higher than South Africa with 1 day and India with 0.
Kenyans are really strong savers.
According to the research, incomes can fluctuate up to 50% from month to month, forcing low-income Kenyans to keep a reserve for a rainy day. And despite having savings, only 9% are kept in a formal financial institution. According to the research, most of the respondents said they would not let their money sit idle in a bank account when it can be invested and seen to be working in the informal channels such as chamas.
We are the ones who are failing them in the formal financial system because they run away from the formal financial system when things start getting difficult.
To make ends meet, the study found that the average Kenyan household will have more than 10 different sources of income, with contributions and remittances from family and friends contributing a significant chunk of this income. 76% of this income goes to basic needs such as food, which takes up 48% of the budget, education, which takes up 11%, and housing, transport and energy at 8%, 5% and 4% of the budget respectively. With such tight and volatile budgets, the study found that stretching the shilling and negotiating in advance for assured and elastic sources of credit was crucial for low-income households.
Purposely buy in small quantities on a daily basis from multiple different shops so that those shopkeepers see their smiling faces every single day and they know that they will come back if they ever borrow things on credit.
Adelaide Changole, KTN Business.
The Pride in Group, which runs a string of hotels in Kenya, is set to invest 4 billion shillings in expanding its hotel chain. The investment comes in the backdrop of declining tourism numbers. But the group has a different approach to the challenge. The hotels to be constructed in Kisumu and Mombasa will primarily target local tourists in what the company terms as low-cost hotel strategy that cuts across different demographics, says KTN's Philip Keitani.
Since 2013, the country's tourism sector has been sluggish. A myriad of challenges arising from cases of insecurity has seen tourists literally pack and leave. This has forced players, especially in the hotel business, to change tack to keep their occupancy levels up. For the Pride Group, the 4 billion shillings investment strategy is centered on building 3-star hotels that offer competitive pricing to ensure occupancy remains high.
We are coming up with our 280-roomed beach property in Mombasa at Shanzu.
Over the last 3 years, Pride Inn Hotels has seen its portfolio grow with 6 hotels spread across the country. The company says there has been a lack of affordability, yet quality accommodation in the market, and it's hoping its investment in this market will spur its growth.
But as at now, our brand is mainly focusing on 3-star business.
With a total asset value of 5 billion shillings currently, the group is projecting to grow its properties to 9 billion shillings in the next 5 years, with a return investment expected within 10 years. The Pride Group also allocated 1 billion shillings towards growing their existing investment, with an additional 2.5 billion shillings for its new hotel in Shanzu and a further 300 million shillings for its Kusumu investment.
We want to be region-wide. We want to make sure that we cover every county within Kenya. We want to provide people exceptional products and services at outstanding value.
The company is banking on pricing to be a key competitive advantage in its pursuit for growth. Philip Keitan, KTN Business.
Barclays Bank is eyeing a slice of the lucrative property market by setting up a mortgage division. The move follows a strategic shift by the bank that is eyeing new product lines to grow its revenues. Now, this comes as the bank reported 12% growth in half pre-tax profits to 6.1 billion shillings. Charles Kitonga has more.
Barclays Bank made a net profit of 4.2 billion shillings in the first half of this year, which is a 13.5% rise from 3.7 billion shillings recorded a year earlier. This growth came in as the loan book expanded by 20% to 128 billion shillings from 107 billion shillings. The bank's net interest income pushed the profits upwards by growing by 5% to 9.7 billion shillings.
We're pleased with our results. We are very focused around driving the things in the middle of this chart, which is sustainable, predictable performance as a bank.
And while that led to the overall growth in profits, the introduction of new business lines has brought with it diversification of revenue streams. Key among these is strengthening its mortgage division as demand for housing rises in the market. Early this year, the bank introduced SME and investment banking units, which have been strategic in growing its revenues. Going into the second half of the year, it will introduce a mortgage center in Nairobi's industrial area that will cater for the growing need for property financing. Through this, the bank hopes to expand its customer base while growing its lending base.
This really will help people achieve their ambitions of owning a home, and we want to be able to take you through that process.
Although the bank's focus seems to be on tapping into new revenue streams, its traditional corporate lending cash cow has been undergoing various technological changes aimed at improving customers' experience. Charles Gitonga, KTN Business.
Barclays is certainly looking at a different strategy going forward, but that's how we wrap up business. But here's a look at how your money is working for you in the Financial Market Report coming up next.
Right, let's take you to our top story tonight. And the National Police Service Commission has declared null and void police recruitment in 36 centers spanning across 21 counties after an audit triggered by massive complaints and claims of corruption. The Commission says the exercise in those centers could not stand the integrity test.
So that top story forms the basis of our big question tonight, and we're asking you, do you support the nullification of police recruitment for the 1,200 new recruits?
And Paul Mzengu says, yes, can we get things right sometimes? Things don't just go wrong, they start wrong. Yes, let's start over.
At Sky Tikarish says, this means a postponement of a corruption cause coordinators and organizers have not been changed.
Mungai Ezra says, the big question is when and how severe should the punishment of those responsible be?
Bernard Abuga says, nope, counties like Nyamira where bribes changed hands in broad daylight were witnessed are not included.
Keep sending those SMSs to our number 22155. For now, we take a quick break, but don't go too far. After this, Lane Washira will be bringing us the latest in sports.
Stay with KTN.
Good evening and a warm welcome to KTN Sports. I'm Lane Washira, and we kick off the bulletin in matters football, where the Coca-Cola National Finals being held at the Hope Center, Kawangware, has offered an ample ground for Kenya's young football stars to showcase their talent. But to the host community, the event has given them free entertainment a stone's throw away from their houses. Victor Ogale was at the Hope Center the whole day today and filed the following report.
The World Hope Center in Kawangware since Monday hit the headlines since the National Coca-Cola Finals kicked off. This stadium is home to Kenyan Premier League side City Stars, and all through the week it will be a beehive of activity as teams battle it out for the few tickets for the finals at the City Stadium. Area residents have religiously visited the grounds to watch raw talent exhibition.
Most of the time mchana tunakuanga free, na sasa vile mmetuleta hii karibu, at least mmetusaidia, tumepata mahali pa kuchangamkia.
Kwanza huu mtaa wetu wa Kawangware ni mtaa ambao umependwa sana, na kama mpira ungepelekwa Nyaa pende uenda tungekuwa wengi kule sana.
At least wanajifurahisha, wasiboeke kwa nyumba, hali venye iko ya hanga venye iko hivi, at least sasa hiyo wako wamechangamka.
And action is not restricted to the pitch alone. When matches take the 15 minutes mandatory break, revelers are entertained. And everyone had their turn to be the chilly Nairobi weather.
Mimi nafurahia nimekuja kuona mpira. Walifanya vizuri kuleta mpira. Ndio watu wafurahie, wasipenda kazi wakuja waone ball.
On the pitch, it was action galore as Western Provincial champions Mohanda Boys began their campaign with a 2-1 win over Tana Boys on a wet pitch. Kitale Youth reigned 4 unanswered goals past season champions Tharaka Stars. In the girls' matches, Eastern side Kirindara Starlets thrashed Mombasa Starlets 3-1. On Wednesday, boys defending champions JMJ Academy will face it off against Tana Boys in a must-win match for both sides, while Mohanda will take on Angaza's Tharaka Lockhorns with young Muslims. To many Kawangware residents, the Coca-Cola National Finals has come at the right time, offering them a pastime activity, also bearing in mind that most of the students are on recess. Victor Ogale, KTN at the World Hope Center, Kawangware, Nairobi.
And back home, the Kenya Ports Authority men's volleyball team was the big winner of the day at the ongoing Kenya Communication Sports Organization Kikoso Games in Eldoret. KPA registered 2 victories, first against Ministry of Information and Communication and later over the Kenya Airways. The Dockers saw off Ministry of Information in 3 sets of 25-19, 25-21 and 25-14. They later went on to bag another 3 sets win against Kenya Airways. The Postal Corporation of Kenya edged out the whipping boys of the tournament, Kenya Airways 3-0, while Kenya Airports Authority wrapped up a 3-1 win over Ministry of Communication and Information. And that's how we wrap up KTN Sports tonight. I'm Lane Washira. Do have a good night and stay with KTN.
So, do you support the nullification of police recruitment for the 1,200 new recruits? That was our big question tonight.
And it is split right down the middle. 50-50 is the poll results. And Abraham Monaso says, yes, I do. Bribery and nepotism was widespread. He just had to part with 200,000 shillings and the job was guaranteed.
At Hechabuya says, I support. That's the only way the exercise will start getting the seriousness and transparency it needs.
Ramadan Muyuka says, yes, but let's see more action to the perpetrators of the ills of the nullified process.
Well, at Gideon Ouma says, yes, in fact, the sample centers nullified is biased. 100% confidence gained in nullification exercise in entirety.
Ethan Bosirus says, yes, I support. In fact, the whole exercise should be annulled. Police are so corrupt.
Those are your opinions on our big question tonight. And of course, we do thank you for being part of this bulletin and of course for watching KTN Prime. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night. I'm Linda Ogutu.
Thank you for watching tonight. I'm Ben Kitili. Good night from the Standard Group Center.